Okay, this is Christine Vendel here in Harrisburg. I'm here with Harrisburg Mayor Eric Papenfuse at Ward 14, and he's here to greet voters as they come in. He's also agreed to answer some of our questions today. So I'd like to first talk about turnout. What have you noticed today on Election Day?
Yeah, well, the first thing I would say is I guess it's getting close to 5 around here, and we're at the Hitzuk Amuna Congregation Synagogue here in Uptown Harrisburg, and there's still a steady stream of voters, despite the fact that it was just snowing a second ago, and it's pretty miserable. So I want to first, commend everybody who's braved the elements today to come out and vote, because that's encouraging. Now, turnout's going to be light, but all those that came out and did their civic duty should be acknowledged, and people should know that there's still time to come out and vote, and I hope people who are watching this will consider doing so if they haven't yet.
All right, and then let's, so do you think the weather is going to keep some people who otherwise would have voted away?
I think undoubtedly the weather will be a factor today, and turnout is going to be perhaps even historically low.
And in Harrisburg, as many places, it's lower in these off election years without a presidential election to draw a lot of attention.
Yes, that's always going to be true. Although we do have statewide judicial races, which are very important and hotly contested, but generally we don't have a big ticket, and as a result, turnout is generally going to be low. You couple that with the extreme weather that we're having, and that's where we are. But again, it's been a steady stream, and it's good to see people coming out to vote.
All right, let's talk about a raffle, an unusual raffle that cropped up in this year's election. First, have you ever seen anything like that being offered? And for people following who haven't heard of this, we have a story on PennLive about it where there were flyers distributed offering prizes if you vote in the Harrisburg, specifically in the Harrisburg mayor election. And then there was an emergency injunction filed and granted by a judge to seize all the raffle tickets. So tell us what you know about that.
Well, it was so disheartening. It really started mostly this morning between about 8:30 and 11:30 or so at a lot of the precincts throughout the city. People showed up with raffle tickets and offering cash giveaways, not just an iPhone 10 or an iPhone X, but also $500 in cash and other amazing prizes for people voting. And I spoke to a number of people at a variety of different precincts, and again and again, it was confirmed to me, and I had names and addresses, that these were people that had gotten the referral through the Gloria Martin Roberts campaign. And I would never say something like that lightly. It's a very serious charge. This is a felony. If anyone is at all unclear, influencing somebody's vote by offering money, even if it's just for a general race like mayor, is a felony offense, and it's deeply disturbing. So I spoke to a number of people today. I also spoke to one individual who identified James Ellison as his point of contact as a lawyer who had explicitly told him that it was okay to do this, just not to mention any particular campaign, just to hand out the flyers. But again, it's not okay. And Christine, you asked, is there a history of this? Well, yeah, there's a history of this in American politics. There's even a history of this dating back decades in Harrisburg. Harvey Taylor, the great Republican machine, was sort of famous for offering people a free drink if they came to the polls. You collect a token and you could go to the Republican Club and redeem it afterwards. That process was outlawed, and a lot of election rules were tightened in the latter half of the 20th century to prevent just this sort of thing. So it's very distressing. As you say, a judge did issue an order. The tickets were seized. People were getting tickets that looked like this, your standard raffle ticket. I got a bunch myself at all the different polls. Had a number on it. They kept one, you took one. So the premise was they would draw them after the election. A lot of people were saying that they were going to get paid based on having stayed there all day or handed out all the flyers. There was a reference of an office down on 2nd Street that this was being coordinated out of. It's distressing and it's serious. I condemn it. I think it's a clear attempt to subvert our democratic process, and it's something which nobody should stand by and witness.
So after you voted, when you came out, that's when the people would offer
You got a ticket, actually before you went in to vote. You would get a ticket, you'd also get a flyer, looks something like this. You've seen copies of this, offering to win, extraordinary prizes. In several of the polls, the same people that are handing out the flyers were handing out the Gloria Martin Roberts write-in campaign, which is why I questioned people individually. It seemed to be there were several types of workers. There were some individuals that came from the Bethesda Mission, and they came from downtown Daily Bread. They were sort of rounded up in the morning with the promise of handing out the tickets and just hand out the raffle tickets and the flyers, and you'll get paid at the end of the day. They were picked up and dropped off. It was a very organized operation.
Do you know how much they were being paid for their day's work?
I didn't get into that, but I did push them because several of them said that they had been referred to this by the Gloria Martin Roberts campaign. And other than that, there were no paid poll workers. I didn't have any paid poll workers. There's nobody at the polls being paid really for any campaign. There were some volunteers for the judges' races and the Democratic Party, but that was it. So
right, and you're referring to, like, during the primary, there's always a lot of poll workers for different campaigns, but it wasn't like that today, except for the raffle.
Except for the ones that were getting paid through this lottery program.
Okay, well, great. And then let's lastly talk about, should you win re-election, tell us some of your top priorities or some important things going on in the city right now that you'll be dealing with.
Yeah. Well, tomorrow we're going to break ground on the long-anticipated repaving of 3rd Street. I mentioned that because our infrastructure in large parts of the city is crumbling, and we need to address that. It includes a lot of pedestrian upgrades and stormwater management and green infrastructure, all of which are going to make the city more walkable, more livable. It's going to go through multiple neighborhoods, stretching the entire length of the city, and that's just happening tomorrow. Priorities continue to be working to make Harrisburg safe and to try and promote as much economic development as we can. So I will say, I said this at the time of the primary, I'd say it again now. I would hope those that were busy today waging writing campaigns would roll up their sleeves and join me in working to try and unite the city. I think that is the best use of everyone's time and effort, and I would welcome their help.
Okay, and I guess I'll squeeze in one last question about the federal courthouse. Any updates on that?
Federal courthouse is definitely happening. Construction is supposed to begin in 2019. There have been a series of meetings between the GSA and the city engineering team and development team. We're looking at potentially a traffic circle upgrade to the 7th Street corridor at 7th and Riley Street. We're talking about maybe a parking study because a lot of the people visiting the courthouse will need parking. That may necessitate a garage in that area as opposed to more surface lots. There are a lot of private surface lots. So that planning is well underway. And if you drive by the archive site, which is just next to the proposed courthouse, you'll see that demolition and site clearing has already begun there. So that project's begun. The others looking for 2019 start date.
Okay, great. Well, we'll let you get back to what you're doing here, and thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you.